It's Sunday, February 2nd, and it's great to have you with us. We have a lot to unpack, all of our hibernating prognosticators and all those results. Will we see an early spring, or does 6 more weeks of winter await? My name is Matt Hamill. I'll be with you for the duration of our live coverage. We have many reporters out in the field. Of course, out in Alberta, Connor will be giving us the scoop on what Balzac Billy predicts, whether that early spring or a prolonged winter. Now, Victoria and Nathan are also in the field, and we'll check in with them. Victoria is in Wiarton, Ontario, for the prediction from Wiarton Willie. Looking forward to touching base with Victoria when things get going shortly in that part of the country. Nathan Coleman is also with us in Nova Scotia. Now, Nathan's had quite a fun morning by the sounds of it. And Nathan, I'm sure you have a lot to share with what you've seen thus far. Lucy the Lobster.
Yes, Matt, Lucy the Lobster has seen her shadow. This is just the stuffy that I got here, but the crowd cleared out quickly because it is freezing cold out here. It feels like minus 22 with that wind chill. So there was a big crowd gathered here right at 8 a.m. local time, and Lucy came out of the ocean, saw her shadow. So that means 6 more weeks of winter, and I was told here in Barrington, since Lucy started coming out for the ceremony, this is the coldest ceremony they've ever had. There's ice just freezing in to the harbor here. So we also saw the other groundhog in Nova Scotia, Shubenacadie Sam, saw her shadow as well. So it's looking like 6 more weeks of winter from the prognosticators here in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, Nathan, that's sort of been the early indicator from some of these prognosticators is, unfortunately, seeing the shadow and maybe implicating that longer winter. Now, you mentioned it is one of the coldest ceremonies on record for a day like this. Now, I'm sure that has sort of led into some feelings, hey, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if an early spring arrived. But were you able to kind of get the sense, talking to some folks at the ceremony today, about how their feelings were about either an early spring or maybe more of the cold weather you're working with right now?
Well, yeah, they're hoping for the early spring, but there's not many clouds up there. We have the bright sunshine, so there wasn't much hope that we weren't going to see a shadow here, even though Lucy, not as big as the other groundhogs, being a lobster, but still managed to see her shadow. So the crowds will have to deal with it. I mean, everyone was holding on to their hot chocolate tightly, and of course it's a big social media day, but it was tough to take your gloves off to get your picture with your phone because it is just that cold. I took mine off for a bit with my camera, and it is just frigid. I had to put it back on. So it is a cold Groundhog Day here. And last year, I remember when we had the Groundhog Day, there was a 4-day storm event following it. So this year, we'll be watching the forecast closely. It is just freezing. You want to make sure you bundle up if you're heading out on your Sunday.
Yeah, Nathan, right now we're looking at some of the footage of this year's prediction from Shubenacadie Sam, and we can see the sun shining, much like it is for you out there in Barrington, Nova Scotia. And yes, that seeing of the shadow, it's retreating back into the den, and perhaps another 6 more weeks of winter. And we'll be touching in with meteorologist Rhythm Reet to get more information on, some of the meteorological significance of these prognosticators. But Nathan, I can see you got your Lucy the Lobster plushie there. Now, can you give us a bit more of how you have been able to really kind of handle the cold? Maybe it is sort of helpful having your kind of fun lobster with you there.
Yeah, this is keeping me extra warm, but it's all about the layers. I mean, I've got the parka, neck warmer, gloves, hat. I mean, you need everything to layer on this morning. I was kind of surprised at the size of the crowd because it is that cold. But, people love Lucy. They came down here dressed for it. And it was exciting, but even, Lucy had a little blanket over the top of her, so that was funny to see. You don't usually see, a lobster dressing for the weather, but that's just how cold it is here this morning.
Nathan, thank you so much for the report. Lucy the Lobster predicting, unfortunately, and kind of in line with the sort of weather you're having to deal with today, maybe a little bit more winter yet. Now, here's a look at some of our kind of early prognostics from different parts of the country. So obviously, the further east you go, that's where we have had some reveals already. Now, in Quebec, Fred Lamarmotte has predicted more winter, and just like we saw with Shubenacadie Sam, and as Nathan just gave us the scoop, Lucy the Lobster, which I suppose is one of the more unique Groundhog Day prognosticators, also calling, unfortunately, for more winter. And yes, very kind of on brand with the very cold air that we've been working with. Now, shortly, we'll see if we can bring in our meteorologist, Rhythm Reed, to maybe give us a little bit more details on some of the cold we're dealing with in different parts of the country. Of course, another big component here is the sunshine, and the less cloud cover we have on a day like today, and that kind of lends itself to the shadow, and then, yes, the groundhogs getting scared and going back into the den, and that would, yes, be the indicator for more winter time. Now let's, of course, with our coverage, we're going to be touching in with Victoria Fenn Alvarado. She is not in studio today. She is in Wiarton, and it looks like a riot. They are having a great time, and we'll be getting the full scoop on what we're seeing out there from Wiarton. Willie, as I mentioned before, out in Alberta, again, another rather unique spin on the Groundhog Day festivities, where we have a quite a sizable mascot to give the prediction there. So we'll be getting Connor O'Donovan out in Alberta, in Balzac, Alberta, with that there. And of course, we just got Nathan Coleman's rundown from Barrington, Nova Scotia, kind of covering both the prolonged winter from both Lucy the Lobster and Shubenacadie Sam. And so here's a look at a little bit more of what it means, right? If there is no shadow, the early spring predicted, but let's check in with meteorologist Rhythm Reed to help give us a little bit more context on what we're thinking for a day like today. Rhythm, how's it going?
Well, it's going well, Matt. It looks like there's going to be a little bit more winter in the east. However, I'm going to go into a little bit into Wiarton, what's going on there, because I think a lot of folks across Ontario are going to be a little bit excited. Now, we do have bands of snow that are moving across regions of Wiarton. This is going to be encouraging, well, cloud cover. So when we are taking a look over the last 2 hours, we're going to continue to see these bands push across the region, all thanks to a clipper that is moving on in. Now, that does mean good news, so I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about the fact that we may actually not see their shadow, and that's all going to be continuing through the day today as we do have this clipper that is nudging across the region. It will mean some more snow across the regions of the GTA as well. But if we take a look over into Alberta, the bigger story is going to be those frigid temperatures. Taking a look at some of those current temperatures as of right now, -24 in Calgary. We know that Connor is just slightly north of Calgary, but those frigid temperatures are going to be sticking around through the day today as well. So when we take a look at some of those temperatures in terms of those wind chills, it's going to be feeling closer to -34 in places like Old and closer to -31. Now, I know everyone wants to know, what are we talking about in terms of cloud cover? Is it going to be clear or not? Well, it is actually up in the air for Alberta today, just because we do have a little bit of just a little bit more of that snowfall that is going to be falling, probably for the region. Matt, what do you think about that?
Well, Rhythm, I know, something, the theme we're kind of seeing is the cold, and that was what Nathan highlighted in Nova Scotia, and that's what you're touching on there. And I would like to, just for the record, Rhythm, we did not coordinate these matching outfits today. It just happened, a little Groundhog Day magic happening right here in the Weather Network studios. Now, thank you very much, Rhythm, for the rundown on some of the weather we're looking at. And as you sort of were able to kind of drill into there, when there's no shadow, when you get that cloud cover, which might be in the cards for Wiarton, Willie, that's when we have the early spring prediction from our groundhog friends. Let's bring in Victoria Fenn Alvarado, who is having a good time in Wiarton, as one is wont to do. Victoria, tell us a bit about what the scene has been like for you on Groundhog Day in Wiarton.
That's pretty impressive to have him on our stage.
Oh, Matt, it's always a good time here in Wiarton, Ontario. This is my third Groundhog Day in a row, and let me tell you, this is the biggest crowd that we have seen. I don't know if it's because it's a weekend or if it's just because this is such a fun event for this community. There is hundreds of people in the crowd. We're going to show you a bit of our crowd here right now. You can see people, they got their paws, they're waving it in the air. We've seen just an absolute crew. Wave your paws, everybody, wave your paws. Yeah, there you go. I've got to meet the mascot, and I'm excited to meet Wiarton Willie himself. You know, every year I try to talk to Wiarton Willie, and I try to learn Groundhogese. That's what the mayor talks with him, and that's how they determine whether he sees his shadow or not here. And so we're going to have to find out. We're really anticipating what it's going to be, Matt. Let me tell you, I'm hoping for an early spring, but it is cold out here. Right now it's feeling more like minus 18. I had my gloves off for a little bit, and then I immediately had to put them right back on because it is frigid out here. But you know what? Time's ticking, Matt. I'm getting really excited.
You know, Victoria, I think I can understand the excitement. I mean, we've been seeing just some of the festivities happening there, and it sounds like we're getting close to the big moments, so we'll stick along with you. But Victoria, you mentioned some of the cold. Now, Nathan is absolutely feeling the chill. How is it for the sizable crowd that's gathered? How exactly is it feeling this morning weather-wise?
6 years later,
It's pretty cold out here. I mean, we certainly are feeling the wind chill. Sometimes you get a little gust of wind and you can feel it. But for the most part, there's no sun out yet. I don't know if it's because the sun is just rising, but it's super cloudy here. I don't know whether that's going to indicate what Wiarton Willie's going to see his shadow or not, but we're really going to have to find out from the groundhog itself. But it is definitely chilly. Everybody's bundled up. I can tell you right now, I got 3 pairs of pants on, so we're keeping warm out here. You got to stay moving. We were doing some jumping jacks in the crowd here. Everyone was doing a warm-up cheer, and I think that really helped. But everybody is all bundled up in the most gear, and that's how you should be if you're heading out today. Anywhere near Bruce Peninsula, let me tell you, it's cold up here, and they have way more snow up here than in Oakville. You guys have no snow there. Here, they got like knee-high snow.
Okay, Victoria, I'm glad you got, triple pairs of pants on for this morning, and yeah, it sounds like it is just that cold. We will be checking in for Wiarton Willie's prediction, but as Rhythm was able to highlight moments ago, we do have some cloud cover, even some bands of snow moving through parts of southern Ontario, so a chance of no shadow, and that would indicate an early spring from Wiarton Willie. Now, when it is a sunny day, as we've been seeing in the Maritimes, that does indicate that groundhog or lobster will retreat home in 6 more weeks of winter. That is the wonderful tradition. Now we can bring back in meteorologist Rhythm Reed to unpack a little bit more of how the meteorologists are kind of competing for attention today with our hibernating friends.
Listen, today's the day I take a little bit of a step back. I let them do their thing, but I do want to indicate one thing, Matt. Something so interesting is that we've gotten down to about 19.6 degrees in Halifax. Even Nathan mentioned that it was frigid. This is actually one of those days where we've seen a record being broken. So the last time that we saw temperatures fall down this cold on Groundhog Day was actually all the way back in 1933. Now I do want to go back to Wiarton. Like Victoria mentioned, like you highlighted as well, cloud cover and some bands of snow are pushing across regions of Wiarton. Now I'm going to let the groundhog indicate whether it's going to be an early spring or late in Wiarton, but it does look like as we're going through the rest of the morning into the afternoon as well, we're going to continue to see that cloud cover linger across the region. Now that is going to be good news as we wait for those final results, but then the question ends up being for Alberta, are we going to see that clear sky or not? Just because when we take a look at the forecast through this morning, well, it does look like we'll see some bands of snow push across regions of Calgary, and that cloud cover will be lingering in the area. So we might just have a competition between Atlantic Canada and Quebec, as well as Ontario and across Alberta, whether or not we are actually going to see an early spring in those regions. And Matt, I'm going to throw throw it back to you. What do you think about that? Are you hoping for an early spring, or are you hoping for, you know, a little bit more winter?
You know, Rhythm, whether it's myself or, you know, Nathan Coleman in the field, who looked absolutely frigid this morning. Victoria's wearing 3 pairs of pants just to try to keep some heat going. I think that we're all a little bit beleaguered at this stage of winter. I mean, we've been dealing with the cold temperatures for a good amount of time. That's my long-winded answer of saying, yes, please bring on spring. However, early indications, we're still waiting on Wiarton, Willie. That's next up, and Victoria will have that reveal for us in just a few moments. But in Quebec, Fred Lamarmont, yeah, more winter. We had Lucy the Lobster and Shubenacadie Sam all in the camp that we might not really be happy to see. And of course, Punxsutawney Phil, a big prognosticator as well. And it looks like we're into that same more winter territory. So Shubenacadie Sam, here's a look, and you can see folks are bundled up, and again, really lending itself to that maybe sense of impatience of let's bring on the spring. But you can see those blue skies and that sunshine, so gonna see that shadow, right? And that indicates the groundhog will retreat, indicating more winter ahead. In Punxsutawney, popularized by the 1993 Bill Murray movie. And we have the big ceremony here. We've got some pretty cool hats.
Headed back down. There's a shadow up here.
A shadow spotted.
6 more weeks of winter this
and
year.
6 more weeks of winter. But the large crowd in Pennsylvania not phased. You see the signs, bring on the shadow. Folks are braving the winter as Punxsutawney Phil predicts even more weeks of frigid, difficult to negotiate temperatures on the way. So there's a look at Punxsutawney Phil. Now we're going to check in back here in Canada. Wiarton, Willie, Victoria Fenn Alvarado is in the mix, and we're going to keep a close eye as the reveal appears to be on the way very soon. But there you just saw with Punxsutawney Phil. Victoria, it seems like a trend is emerging here. We're seeing shadows, more winter ahead, and looks like we're getting closer to finding out exactly what Wiarton Willie might do to maybe buck that trend a little bit.
Matt, I always like to say Wiarton Willie is the OG groundhog, other than Punxsutawney Phil. He's our Canadian OG. He's going to have the right prediction, and I'm really hoping for an early spring this year. Like I said, I've been here for 3 years in a row, and I have not seen a crowd this large. The festival's ongoing. I'm going to get out of the way so you can watch what's happening, because we're going to start getting going with this prediction here. Everybody's getting all excited. You can see everyone on the stage all dressed up. We have our ministers, and they're all ready to go. We're going to show you a little bit of the crowd here. You can see people all the way up, standing up on a hill back there. Like I said, this is my 3rd Groundhog Day here, and there's hundreds of people, hundreds. I believe that this being on a weekend is absolutely even changed the location venue for people to accommodate. So you can certainly see how amped up everybody is here, and I think they're going to start getting Willie out here soon. I'm excited to get the little guy out on the stage.
Just one more thing.
Yes, indeed, Victoria. So we will be really keeping a close eye. It looks like the ceremonies are almost underway, and when we start to see Willie make his way out, maybe we'll just let the live stream take over and keep a close eye on the scene. But thank you very much, Victoria, for giving us the lowdown. Maybe why don't we listen in for a few minutes in Wiarton and see if we're getting close to the big moments.
Now, the mayor of the land and of the Marmot, it's Jay Kirkland, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everybody. It's very nice to see everybody here, all in good spirits. Not too many snow hats on today because it's not snowing. It's great to see that everybody come to our new town hall facility. I know it's not painted yet, but we will give it a fresh coat of paint before we move in, but it's just introducing you to where we will be in the future. And this will be where Wiarton Willie probably will be making his predictions for many years to come. So we're here to wake up Willie and not listen to all of us talk all day long. So I'll try to be as short as I can, short and sweet. Glad to see some of the signs out there. Wake up Willie, long live Willie, who let the hog out? That's a good one. There's some I can't read, they're not sharp enough. Sorry about that, but it's nice to see quite surprised when I pulled in here this morning before the fireworks. You could not find a parking spot anywhere, so it was good to see all the locals, anybody visiting. Welcome to Wiarton. It's nice to be here in the morning, and we talk about fireworks at 7 a.m. in the morning. I don't know if anybody else does fireworks at 7 a.m. in the morning, so it was very good to see that we had the crowds here for that. So very proud of South Bruce Peninsula, and quite an honor to be your mayor. And I'm just going to list off the councillors that are supporting me here today. And we have our deputy mayor. I'm trying to look around to see if I can see Caleb Hall. I don't know if Caleb's here or not. He can put his hand in the air. We have Kathy Durst as a councillor, Paul Deacon as a councillor, and Terry Bell as a councillor. So I know they'll be here somewhere walking around, so I'd like to thank them for coming today. Beautiful country that we live in. I call it God's country.
You see the festivities well underway there in Wiarton. We are getting close, just a few minutes away, by all indications, to Wiarton Willie making his Groundhog Day predictions. So again, a quick recap. We're going to be having Wiarton Willie giving us his verdict. Now, Fred Lamarmont in Quebec predicting more winter, as is Shubenacadie Sam, Lucy the Lobster, and Punxsutawney Phil, the American OG with the whole Groundhog game, as Victoria very delightfully highlighted. Wiarton Willie is the Canadian OG, really that original groundhog for us here in Canada. We could get back in touch with Rhythm Reed and again, just maybe get a little scoop, an indicator from our meteorologist about whether or not Wiarton Willie's going to make the decision we're all hoping for, or maybe more winter. Rhythm, any changes in how you're looking at things right now?
Well, I do have some good news. I'm going to kind of let you know all of the snow that is still over Wiarton is still going to be pushing across the region. That does mean that we do a lower chance of Willie seeing his shadow. So that is going to be good news there. But if there is even a slight break in any of those snow bands or that cloud cover by the time we do end up seeing Willie come out, that might just change the game. So it's going to be all up to Willie to see how that plays out, Matt.
Yes, Rhythm, and of course we have not only Willie in Alberta, we're talking with Connor O'Donovan. We'll have his visuals throughout the day here on the Weather Network. There's just so much across the country to unpack. So Rhythm, if you're still with us for a moment, if we could maybe turn our attention to Alberta and get the scoop on what may be coming in a couple hours from our guy out there in Alberta. From Connor, Balzac, Billy.
Well, when we take a look at Alberta right now, we do have cloud cover that is lingering thanks to a trough in British Columbia. That, again, is some good news there. We're definitely going to have to see how it plays out because in a couple of hours, what we can continue to see is some of that snow still lingering over regions of the QE2 and up towards areas of Calgary and Balzac. We can be looking at a little bit more of that cloud cover. So it's going to be those frigid temperatures across Alberta to be mindful of, Matt.
Thank you, Rhythm. We'll be checking back in with you, but now it looks like we're getting close to crunch time in Wiarton. Let's check back in with what's happening on stage as Wiarton Willie is about to make his prediction.
Shortly, for the 68th year since 1957, the mayor shall once again converse in the ancient tongue of Groundhogese with Wiarton Willie.
Here he comes.
We shall await for our renowned albino groundhog's prediction, a ritual rooted in the folklore of Eastern Europe.
All ye in attendance, it's now time to awake our iconic symbol of Canada, Wiarton Willie, the outstanding prognosticator, for another flawless prediction for spring's arrival of 2025. So now let's wake up Willie! Wake up Willie! Wake up Willie! Wake up Willie!
Wake up, Willie! Let's hear it! Wake up, Willie! Here he comes! Wake up, Willie! Wake up, Willie! Oh, there he is! Look at that beautiful groundhog! Hey, Willie! Hey, Willie! Oh,
And of course, that is Kieran, who is the official handler of Willie. Thank you so much, Kieran. Give a wave. Come on, there we go. Perfect.
all right, Willie is here. He's he's hiding, he's shy, but he's ready, I think, to talk. Speak a little Groundhogese. We can't talk to him, but I'm telling you, spring, if you know what's good for you, let's go.
So Mayor Kirkland
All right.
is all set to talk to Willie, get some words of knowledge, and find out what's going on. So,
He
Mayor,
looks like he's woke up. I'm going to have to go to the other side for a second.
We got Willie out
Okay,
on
so
the
he's
stage.
going to
We're
talk
waking Willie
to
up
Willie
here.
right now,
we
and
have
then
the
he's going
mayor.
to confer with the cabinet, tell him what he deciphered from the Groundhogese. This is very
Yeah, that's
exciting. We're
right,
gonna
Vic.
find out
Groundhogese,
since we're
the
winter,
official
which everyone
language
wants,
being
right?
exchanged here.
so here we go. Now he will
Our
go
early spring.
talk to the cabinet.
Oh, they're
All
gathering.
right, it's the
all
time.
happening.
Yeah, we're huddled
We
up
gotta
here,
wait and
Vic.
see here.
Who wants early spring?
I'm cheering for an early spring.
Yeah, I'm
here.
with you
Pressure's
there,
on.
Vic.
Okay, Mayor Kirkland is now coming up.
Here
we
it
are
comes.
ready to hear the actual prediction, and
I think Luke's prayer came true. Willie did not see his shadow. We will have an early spring.
Hey.
yeah, thank you so much. Oh, hi.
There you
Yes,
have
thank
it.
you.
Early spring, everybody.
Yeah, the crowd.
So happy. I told you,
As
Wiarton
criers
Willie.
for Wiarton Willie, we're proud to declare
Go ahead,
there's
Vic.
no
Wiarton
shadow
Willie
in
is
sight.
the
An
OG.
early
I told you,
spring
Wiarton
is
Willie,
in the air.
he's the OG. Early spring, I called it.
Our bells
Everybody
ring
in
out
the
with
crowd
joyous
is
cheer,
pumped up. It's
for
like we're
Willie's
at
forecast
an
is-
arena.
Yes, an
Everybody's so
early
happy
spring
about
is
this.
on its
Yes.
way.
Anticipation of this. I talked to people from all over,
So
Matt.
bring
I
out
talked
the
to someone who
bikes,
came all the way
it's
from
time to
Ottawa to
play.
come and watch
Now
this
Willie
event. You can
remains
see how
on the
anticipated
stage.
this was.
He'll
And I
stay,
think everybody
awaiting
around
the
here is
warmth
happy
of
that we're
another
having an early
spring
spring.
day.
I don't know anybody who said in the crowd
Return
that
to
they
your
wanted the
homes
winter
with
to be
joy
extended.
so bright.
So, like
God
I said,
save
Wiarton
the
Willie,
king.
let's
And
hope
to
that
all,
Willie's right
good
about
night.
that one.
Yes, Vic. So that's awesome to hear. I mean,
All
it
right,
looks like the
thanks
crowd
so
got the
much,
news they
Willie,
wanted
for
to.
doing
And
it for all of us. Thanks
Wiarton,
to
you
the
can
town
see,
criers.
not
Thank you,
afraid to
of course,
kind of
for
stand out from the
Groundhogs,
crowd,
of
right?
course,
We have so many of our early predictions here on Groundhog Day. We're going the direction that many weren't so thrilled about, which was not the arrival of an early spring, but Wiarton Willie. Thanks to Victoria, we got the news there, and that is exactly what we wanted to hear. We did not see a shadow, so the early spring predicted, of course, for many other prognosticators. Yeah, we've been seeing the shadows, and that means we've been seeing the groundhogs or lobsters get scared back into the den, indicating 6 more weeks of winter. But Wiarton Willie with some great news. Now let's talk a little bit more Groundhog Day with this piece right here.
Spring is coming, and the groundhogs are all out there trying to figure out when it's going to happen. But here at the Weather Network, we've got the greatest prognosticator of them all, Dr. Doug Gillum.
Well, the meteorologists at the Weather Network have a different approach. We actually look at the weather instead of our shadows. We're looking at weather patterns around the globe, and we're looking for clues as to how those weather patterns will change over the upcoming days, especially the weeks and months ahead as we head into spring. One of the keys to what we do is that we look at what's going on right now and how that will change, and we look for years in the past that had similar patterns, and we study those years very closely to see whether those years were associated with an early spring or maybe a delayed arrival to spring.
Two key factors to these patterns that Doug and the meteorologists are looking at are the effects of El Nino and La Nina. Whether we're coming or going from one pattern to the other changes the shape of the weather patterns we will see. However, I think our groundhogs are missing something critical.
We live in Canada. 6 more weeks of winter is just about guaranteed. The key is whether it's going to be 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and the poor groundhog doesn't even have a way to give us a heads up that that is a possibility.
Does Doug have a sneak peek for us? Of course I asked him that.
Many of us are going to be teased by spring before we see the real thing. And it seems like every year, spring takes longer to come than we expect, probably because we want it to come more quickly. I do think this year in particular, many Canadians, we will have our patience tested waiting for consistent warm weather.
Well, there you have it from Dr. Doug Gillum, giving us that indication that, yeah, oftentimes there is that kind of false arrival of spring, but winter often does indeed test our patience, as Dr. Doug mentioned there. So here's our latest update. Wiarton Willie standing out from the crowd, predicting an early spring. Rhythm Reed, our meteorologist, you kind of had your finger on the pulse of what Wiarton Willie may have been predicting, and it's finally some good news out of our Groundhog Day predictions.
I would 100% agree with you. I did have my finger. I did say 5 minutes before that it's probably going to be an early spring. But like I said, it's really going to depend now on Billy. So when we take a look back over into Alberta, just to give you all an early indication of what's going on, we do have heavy cloud cover as well as snowfall across the region. Now this does mean that Billy might just be also saying an early spring, but we are a little bit of whiles away exactly to know what's going on. It's going to be those temperatures that are going to play such a big factor across regions of Calgary. So all the folks that are outside today, they are going to be feeling that chill. When we are talking about the temperatures, I do have to mention once again, Nathan, he was talking about how cold it was, and well, this has been one of the coldest Groundhog Days since 1993. We got down to minus 19.6 in Halifax. The coldest was a minus 23.9 in 1962. And when we are taking a look over areas of Wiarton continuing, I'm sure a lot of people are happy about the early spring prediction, but it is still currently snowing across the region with some of those bands off of Lake Huron. But nonetheless, Matt, I'm looking forward to the early spring. What about you? I'm glad that we got one of the Groundhogs on there not saying that we're going to have more winter.
Yeah, Rhythm, absolutely. And maybe that'll kind of trigger the domino effect as we get a little further west into our predictions. Now, Rhythm, I want to talk a little bit about something that Dr. Doug was highlighting, right? Which is right now we're feeling cold temperatures, and maybe there will be that sort of false indicator of that spring that shows up, but then we get back into a few more weeks of winter. So can you speak to kind of your thoughts on that and how often we do sort of find ourselves in that position where, you know, we get those cold temperatures, get some relief, feels like spring arrives, and then we still have to endure a little bit more of the cold?
Absolutely, Matt. So I want to highlight one thing. When we are going into February, I'm not taking any of the light away from the groundhog. One of the bigger stories that we are looking at when we go through February is going to be the polar vortex. It does look like it's going to be positioned still on Canada's side. That does indicate on top of that, well, we're going to be having a lot more Arctic air to work with as well. Now, when we take a look across the east for early February, we will see more of those milder conditions that will surge further north, but that really does depend. All of it depends on the amount of systems and how many systems we see across the east. Whereas in the west, we're already starting to see those cooler temperatures pushing across the region, and that's just going to be one little indication of the cold shifting towards the west. But we'll definitely see how this jet stream really affects us and pushes out as we're heading into the middle of the month and into March. But I can tell you this right now, Matt, I don't think a lot of folks are going to be happy into early March, because it does look like the cold is going to stick around from a meteorological perspective for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Rhythm. And yeah, I guess, you know, that is just how our winters go, right? And we have been in winter for quite some time now. So really kind of starting to feel maybe a little winter fatigue, but appreciate you shining a light on that, Rhythm. Now, quick recap, Wiarton Willie predicting an early spring, but that's really standing out from everybody else where the consensus has been more winter, including Punxsutawney Phil and Shubenacadie Sam and Lucy the Lobster, Fred Lamarmouth, all in agreement. But Wiarton Willie really going a different direction. So let's check back in Wiarton, Ontario. Victoria is on the scene. The crowd has been electric today, despite the cold. So really goes to show the passion and the energy for Groundhog Day. How are things going, Vic?
Things are amazing. Everybody here is all smiles, right? Are we happy with the prediction? Are you excited for an early spring?
Yeah.
What's your favorite springtime activity?
Like soccer, I don't know.
Soccer, perfect. This is not soccer weather today, let me tell you. It is feeling more like minus 18 here in Wiarton, Ontario. I got plenty of layers on, and so does everyone else, all bundled up, right? Are you guys feeling cold or warm? But Wiarton, Willie, really warming up the spirits here. Every year it's an absolute blast here. It is an amazing community event, and this was the largest one that I have been to in many years. So I'm so happy with the turnout here, and I think everybody here, smiles speak for themselves, that an early spring is definitely needed after this cold winter and plenty of snow that we've seen so far, right, Matt?
Yes, Victoria, and I just want to ask you one more question. You know, as you've been at this event through the years, you're becoming an honorary Wiarton native. Now, can you tell us a bit more about your experience, and is this one of the colder Groundhog Day festivals for you?
You know what? I've been here when there was a blizzard. That wasn't that fun. This is certainly the coldest one I've seen. I love these signs here. Can you wave your signs up to the camera? Who let the hogs out? I love that. Wake up, Willie. You can just see how happy everyone is here. They had a bouncy castle earlier. Matt, they had fireworks at 7 o'clock in the morning. Every year they do fireworks. I don't know what other event does fireworks at 7 a.m. That's just getting to show how amazing this is and what the community spirit is like here.
I love it. Thank you very much, Victoria Fenn Alvarado, highlighting, just how special of a day, not only the community getting together and kind of leaning on each other for support as we get deep into winter, waiting on the arrival of spring, like that young fella just said. He's waiting to get outside and play some soccer. But so far, the winter has been, at times, a little intense for us, right? Bringing some of that cold, but taking a look across the board, we've had Punxsutawney Phil calling for more winter. Shubenacadie Sam, the same thing. And in Quebec, Fred La Marmotte. And don't forget, Nathan was on the scene of Lucy the Lobster. And Nathan and many out there in Nova Scotia were feeling the chill in a big way. So let's now talk about a couple more fun facts for this great day of Groundhog Day.
How much do you really know about our furry friend, the groundhog? Here are 4 fun facts that may have eluded you.
We don't have that many animals that do hibernate in Canada. Some half hibernate, like bears, black bears. But the groundhog is one of the largest true hibernators.
During hibernation, groundhogs can lower their body temperature from around 37 degrees Celsius to just 3 degrees Celsius. This remarkable adaptation helps them survive months without eating. Groundhog burrows benefit the environment by aerating the soil and providing homes for other animals, such as rabbits and foxes once they're abandoned. And their snack of choice helps too.
Because they prefer to eat greens, they tend to keep vegetation at bay so it doesn't overgrow. So they're super, super important for prairies and meadows, for example.
Male groundhogs are the first out of their burrows after hibernation, often in late winter. This behavior allows them to establish territories. It's also why most Groundhog Day prognosticators are fellas. While famous for their role on Groundhog Day, groundhogs have a natural connection to weather. Their hibernation cycles are influenced by several environmental cues like warmth, daylight, and food.
They tend to come out when it is pretty certain with temperature that there is growth, or that there will be growth soon.
Which means they would never naturally wake up on February the 2nd.
At that time in Canada, unfortunately, they're not able to predict how long the winter will be because they are still in hibernation for the majority of them.
I think we may owe Willie an apology, or at least.
Well, a lot to love about Groundhog Day, and there's a pretty cool movie about the whole affair as well. But as we've seen, really, a lot of the more eastern sides of the continent have been getting their prognosticators in action. And we have, again, many predicting more winter, but Wiarton Willie standing out from the crowd. Never been afraid to do that. Wiarton Willie predicting an early spring, which is the news many wanted to hear. Now, of course, there's more to unpack, so our Weather Network coverage will be touching base with Connor O'Donovan in Balzac, Alberta to get the scoop there. But of course, we've seen some great festivities. We saw Nathan really braving the cold. I mean, I think a lot of folks out there are certainly dealing with the cold. Victoria was under the same kind of conditions in Wiarton, but Nate was really for the Lucy the Lobster festivities in Barrington, Nova Scotia, feeling the chill, but it was great checking in with him. And of course, we'll be checking in with Connor. So again, we're just going to be waiting important to see if that no shadow, meaning an early spring predicted. And yes, of course, if we do see a sunny, clear day, that creates the shadow, and we'll see that groundhog retreat home, bringing us 6 more weeks of spring. Well, I think that about does it. Well, first we'll bring in Rhythm Reitz, our meteorologist. Rhythm, it's been great having you kind of provide some context here, giving us that weather angle, and you've been kind of helping to give us a little scoop on what's been in store, and maybe you can give us an indication of what might be ahead for the prognostications in different parts of the country.
Absolutely, Matt. Well, we have to take a look at 2 different places, Manitoba, Marv, as well as Billy. Just a quick look into Manitoba. What we will be expecting is to see a little bit more of that cloud cover lingering as well, thanks to a low pressure system that is currently over the region. That's also going to be bringing some light snow across the region as we're heading through into this morning and afternoon. But let's take a look over at Billy. Calgary will also be looking at more of that cloud cover lingering through this morning into the afternoon, all thanks to the trough that's bringing active weather across areas of BC, but also some light snowfall and cloud cover lingering. So it looks like the west will just be looking at more of that indication of an early spring rather than the east that wants to stick around for a little bit longer winter.
Thank you very much. That is how our forecast is looking in the west as we get into Manitoba and Alberta. So we really appreciate you giving us that heads up. And of course, we have more coverage throughout the day here on the Weather Network that you can rely on. And as Rhythm was able to kind of zoom in, we do have some of those, pockets of snow and cloud cover in Alberta. So we'll see just how that's impacting the festivities for Connor O'Donovan. And we know the temperatures are absolutely frigid in parts of the prairies, particularly Alberta. So that'll be a big factor. And that is kind of a running theme in a lot of our Groundhog Day festivities is the cold. But here's how things have shaped up in Halifax. And of course, we're getting into sort of historic territory with the cold we've had on this particular Groundhog Day. Here's the summary we have so far. Wiarton, Willie standing alone predicting an early spring. We'll see how things wrap up for the rest of the day. But thank you for being with us here on Groundhog Day.